forward, you get your PhD in economics at Indiana, you become a professor eventually here at Auburn. What do you think of the American kids you teach, the undergrads? I know you teach macro and money and banking. What's your impression of them? Do they understand capitalism? Do they understand communism? Do they have a sense of how lucky they are?
Most of them don't, and that's what I'm trying to change a little bit. So I tell them stories from the Soviet Union and my experience, and I teach over 500 undergraduate students every year, so large sections. And I try to talk to them, which I think is very shocking to them because they don't expect this from a professor in a large section. So they expect someone to come, read off PowerPoints, and then they don't expect the professor to walk around and ask them questions and like, what do you guys think? And especially if I give them examples from Soviet Union. And I was like, why do you think there wasn't production of chewing gum in Ukraine when I talked about, different markets, the different economic system? And so they kind of taken aback a little bit. So it takes them a while to start, talking back to me. But what I find is that most of them just take everything for granted, and they don't realize how lucky they are.
We were talking off camera that in your childhood you thought of yourself as a Russian citizen, not as a Soviet citizen, not as a Ukrainian, whereas in the United States, people have an identity based on Texas or where they're from, and that you felt that the Soviet Union would have discouraged any sort of Ukrainian nationalism.
Yes, they try. I think that's one of the things that they try to do is just kind of discourage all these 15 republics from keeping their identity, national identity. So everybody was a Soviet citizen. So they tried to equalize everybody. So we're all equal. We are all Soviet citizens. So there was no Ukrainian identity, Moldovan or Belarusian. So we are all the citizens of the Soviet Union. So I think in that way, they kind of try to keep the masses under control, I guess, so that you don't identify with something else. So you're all citizens of the Soviet Union. But I did get some comments saying that, oh, she just makes up these scary stories about growing up in the Soviet Union.
Wow.
Like I tell them, about socialized healthcare. And I said that, well, raise your hand if you want to have a root canal done without any anesthetic. And they were like, oh, what? I said, well, I had it done. And they some people wouldn't believe it. And I said, I know it's hard to believe. But those who smart, they would say, they would ask questions like, why couldn't you have any anesthetic? I said, because the government decided who gets anesthetic. They were rationed, and only people got painkillers and anesthetics for major surgeries like heart surgeries, abdominal surgeries. There was no painkillers used in dental care whatsoever in the Soviet Union. I said, here you go to the dentist. Some people have different sensitivity levels. If you need to get 2 shots, you pay money and they numb your mouth for 3 days. You won't feel anything. In the Soviet Union, you did not have the choice. So I tell them it was like an execution camera. You come like medieval execution. I said, I finally overcame fears of dentists here. And it took me like 5 years. I was just panically afraid of dentists. So some of them say I made it up and it never happened. And stories like that. So they don't believe, but most of them will believe it. And they would be like, wow, we never knew this was going on, A lot of them just completely detached from reality, I think, and they are not prepared to deal with any kind of emotional stress or anything like that. So they break down, like anything. It's like, I even make jokes in my class. I was like, everybody is offended by everything nowadays. I say, you can't even say anything. You can say Merry Christmas. You can say this. It's ridiculous. And I tell people, my relatives, died in Siberian camps. You think I care? You get offended by something I say? Just like, to me, it's ridiculous. But it's true. A lot of them are just so fragile and they can't handle any real life serious situations, I think. So I am not surprised by the fact that they favor socialism, because they think, since they are not capable of dealing with anything, they just think of someone else should take care of their problem.